Hello students, welcome to Zoology Classroom. This is Yel Mahesh, Assistant Professor of Zoology from Tara Government College, Sangareddy. In today's class, we are going to discuss about Platyhelminthes general characters. This topic comes under BSc first year Zoology. So, Platyhelminthes is a phylum in the animal kingdom. The phylum name Platyhelminthes literally means the flatworms. Animals belonging to this phylum are soft and thin body, and they are having leaf or ribbon-like bodies. So examples for these Platyhelminthes include Planaria. This planaria lives in ponds and streams in freshwater bodies. It is a free-living animal. And other examples include flukes and tapeworms. These flukes and tapeworms these are parasites which live in human beings and some other animal bodies. So these are the examples for this Platyhelminthes phylum. And Gegenbar is the first person to use the term Platyhelminthes. He separated these flatworms or Platyhelminthes animals as a separate phylum. So he created the phylum Platyhelminthes. And the animals included in this phylum are about 13,000 species. So coming to general characters of Platyhelminthes phylum. First one is level of organization. So this phylum, these organisms, they have organ system level of organization. So these are the first animals to have organ system level of organization. As we have seen in last classes, protozoans are having protoplasm level of organization. It is said so because the life processes are occurring inside the single cell protoplasm, as they are having a single cell in the whole body. All the life activities undergo in the same protoplasm in the single cell. That's why they are said to have protoplasm level of organization. Whereas poriferans, they are multicellular animals, but tissues are not there in them. The various life processes will be performed by different types of cells. Hence, they are said to have cellular level of organization. The next phylum that comes in animal kingdom is Coelenterata or Cnidaria. In Coelenterata or Cnidaria, for the first time, tissues have been developed. So different tissues perform different life processes. Hence, they are said to have tissue level of organization. And in this Platyhelminthes phylum, the animals belonging to this Platyhelminthes phylum are having the organs and organ systems. And the organ systems are not completely developed in these organisms. Only few organ systems have been developed. And in some other cases, they are just having some organs. Even though we are considering these organisms are as having a organ system level of organization. So these are the first animals to have organ system level of organization. And coming to habitat, the flatworms in this phylum Platyhelminthes, some animals are free-living animals, and some animals are parasites, whereas some other animals commensals. So three types of organisms are there. Free-living animals, they live in the terrestrial habitats, especially the terrestrial habitats which are having moisture conditions like muddy areas, And not only in terrestrial habitats, mostly they live in freshwater bodies, and some free-living platyhelminthes organisms live in marine habitats also. And mostly parasites are there in this phylum. All these parasites, they live in the bodies of their hosts, and the hosts include mostly human and other vertebrates. And some commensals are also there. These commensals also live along with some other hosts or commensals. They also include many vertebrates. Symmetry. And all the platyhelminthes animals are bilaterally symmetrical. Why? Because their bodies are dorsoventrally flattened, and they're having triploblastic nature. So this bilateral symmetry is due to the dorsoventrally flattened bodies, and in these bodies they are having polarity, and this polarity is very definite. What is polarity? The both opposite ends of the body are specialized into head and tail ends. So having the anterior end modified into a head is considered as cephalization. So cephalization is also evolved for the first time in platyhelminthes animals only. So cephalization is very, very important one in the process of development or evolving further. So due to these two features, having definite polarity and dorsoventrally flattened bodies, they are having bilateral symmetry. In germ layers, in the animal kingdom, for the first time, 3 germ layers are developed in these platyhelminthes animals only. So far, the organisms have not seen. So far, the phylums we have already discussed are not having a triploblastic nature. The coelenterids are having diploblastic characteristic feature, whereas these platyhelminthes are having triploblastic character. And during the course of embryonic development, we can find 3 germ layers in the developing embryo. Those 3 germ layers are ectoderm, endoderm, and in between these two, the third germ layer, which is developed for the first time in the animal kingdom, is mesoderm, and we find this mesoderm in platyhelminthes. And in the phyla which have evolved later after this platyhelminthes also are having the third germ layer, mesoderm. And coming to body form, shapes, sizes, and colors, all these organisms are dorsoventrally flattened, and they are having a well-developed ventral surface. The mouth and gonopores, they are present on the ventral surface only. And their body generally shapes as a worm, but varies from moderately elongated flattened to a long ribbon-like and leaf-like body. So moderate length to a long length bodies are there in these organisms, and they are very small to moderate in size, varying from microscopic to extremely elongated form, measuring up to 10 to 15 meters length. Their body is unsegmented except in class Cestoda. Except in Cestoda, remaining organisms are segmented, whereas cestodons they are having segmented body parts. The majority of them are white in color or colorless, and some organisms derive color from ingested food, while free living forms are gray, brown, black, or brilliantly colored. Their anterior end of the body is differentiated into head. This part we have already discussed. This phenomenon is considered as called as cephalization. Mouth and genital pores are present on the ventral surface. They are well marked in turbellarians, but these mouth and genital pores are less marked in cestodons and trematodes. Turbellarians are free-living platyhelminthes, whereas cestodonts and trematodes are mostly parasites or commensals. So in free-living organisms, mouth and genital pores are well marked or well developed, whereas in parasites, the mouth and the genital pores are not that much developed. In parasitic organisms, they have some adhesive structures like hooks, spines, and suckers, and their body parts secrete some adhesive secretions also. All these features help the organisms to attach to the host body parts. So all these features are as a part of adaptations they have developed in these parasites as a part of adaptations. And coming to body wall, the body wall covering is soft, and it may or may not be ciliated. That means some organisms' body walls are having cilia, and some other organisms' body walls are not having cilia. A very peculiar or special characteristic feature that can be seen in Platyhelminthes body wall is rod-shaped bodies called rhabdites. So these rhabdites are present in the epidermal cells in the some Platyhelminthes organisms, and mostly they are present in the free-living Platyhelminthes organisms. And these rhabdites are helpful in protection and food capturing for these free-living Platyhelminthes organisms. So this is a very special feature that can be seen in some Platyhelminthes organisms. In body cavity, the space between the body wall and the inner organs is called as body cavity. So this body cavity will be there in triploblastic organisms only. Till diploblastic organisms like till coelenterids, there is no question of having or not having body cavity. Why? Because body cavity will be existing only in triploblastic organisms. Even though Platyhelminthes organisms are triploblastic in nature, but they are not considered as coelomates. They are considered as acoelomates. Why? Because the space between the body cavity and internal organs, mostly internal organs, in internal organs, mostly it is gut or digestive system. So the space between the digestive system and body wall is filled with a connective tissue called parenchyma. So this parenchyma tissue is occupying the space between the body wall and internal organs. Hence, there is no practical body cavity is existing in these organisms. That's why they are called as acoelomates. So, and another reason to call these organisms as acoelomates, there should be a mesoderm occupying, or mesoderm should separate these spaces on both sides. That means on body wall side and on internal organ side. So here we can see these three diagrams in this slide. One is coelomate, second one acoelomate, third one is pseudocoelomate. So in acoelomates, we can see that the blue outline is, it can be considered as body wall, and yellow inner line, it is considered as the gut wall. So in between these two things, we are seeing a red layer. This is parenchyma in case of this platyhelminth. Whereas see in this pseudocoelomate case, the body wall, it is lined with a red layer inside. This red layer is a connective tissue made up of mesodermal origin. And whereas the gut wall, it is not having this layer made up of made from mesoderm. In this case, in coeloderm, in coelomates or eucoelomates, we can see that a yellow line is lined with a red layer or a peritoneum on the outside of it, which is made up of mesoderm. And whereas the outer layer also, or body wall also, it is lined with mesodermal layer inside it. So the space is having mesodermal layers on both ends. So when it is like that, the empty space in between these two mesodermal layers, one below the body wall, another one above the gut wall. When the condition, such condition is prevailing, that is called as coelomate. So the organisms which are having real coelom will be lining the coelom on both sides with made up of mesoderm. So such condition is not there in these organisms. That's why they are called as uh, acoelomates. Whereas in pseudocoelomates, they are having only one lining that is below the body wall. This lining is made up of mesoderm. So in this way, also the platyhelminthes organisms are called as uh, acoelomates. And coming to digestive tract, digestive tract is present in many organisms, in free-living organisms. In parasites, of this platyhelminthes, the digestive tract is complete. It is having only one pore like coelenterate that is acting as mouth and anus also. So, and in free-living organisms, they will be having anus hole also. And in some parasites, this digestive tract is absent. Example is tapeworms. These organisms, they are living in the digestive system of their host. So they will directly absorb the fully digested materials from their host. So they need not to have any digestive system, and they need not to have this digestion process. That's why such type of organisms will be lacking digestive system. Remaining parasites will be having incomplete digestive system. Free-living organisms will be having a fully developed digestive system in them. And the skeletal, respiratory, and circulatory systems, all these three systems are absent in these organisms. As we have seen in the previous slides, a parenchymal tissue is occupying the space between body wall and digestive system. This parenchymal tissue is mostly fluid in nature, and it helps in maintaining the body shape. So this parenchymal fluid tissue is called as hydroskeleton. So as it is having a hydroskeleton, any other skeletal structures are not needed to these organisms. And mostly these organisms are small size in small sized organisms, except a very few ones. So for that reason also, they do not require any hard exoskeleton or endoskeleton. And exoendoskeletons are completely absent in these organisms. That's why their bodies are very soft. And the only hard parts present in these organisms include cuticle, spines, horns, hooks, and teeth. And all these structures are also very, very important for these organisms. And these structures are adaptations for the parasitic life. And gaseous exchange will be done with the help of body surface only, even in free-living organisms and parasites also. Parasites that practice aerobic respiration, they will exchange gases, carbon dioxide and oxygen through the body surface only. And whereas some other parasites which practice anaerobic respiration, they do not require oxygen at all. So there is no question of having respiratory organs or respiratory membranes. And coming to circulatory system, as they are having a parenchymal tissue and which is fluid in nature, this parenchymal tissue will help in circulating materials from here to there and there to here. And the excretory system, includes a lateral canal and a single or a pair of protonephridia with flame cells or flame bulbs. And in some primitive platyhelminthes organisms, this excretory system is absent. They will practice, they will perform their excretion function through their body surface only. So flame cells are very, very important ones in these organisms and very special structures. These flame cells are also called as solenocytes or protonephridia. They are made for excretion as well as osmoregulation. And ammonia is a chief excretory waste material in these organisms. So here in this diagram, we are seeing the arrangement of excretory system in planaria. So in this below diagram, we can see that they are having two canals. Two canals are present, and these two canals are linked to many flame cells or solenocytes or protonephridia. And these solenocytes are protonephridia. They are having a band of cilia in them. And these band of cilia, when they are working, their movement appears like a flame. That's why these solenocytes are protonephridia. They have got the name flame cells. So many flame cells, they will collect the waste materials or excretory materials or nitrogenous waste materials. And ammonia is the main excretory waste material in these organisms. They will collect this ammonia and they will send these into this vertical pipes, and these vertical pipes they open to the exterior through some openings, and through these openings the excretory material ammonia will be sent out of the body. Nervous system. Nervous system is peculiar in these organisms. It appears like ladder-like. So ladder-like nervous system is a special feature in these organisms. The main nervous system consists of a pair of ganglia. This pair of ganglia will be present in head region, and it is called as brain also. Apart from this pair of ganglia or pair of brain, they also have one or three pairs of longitudinal nerve cords. So 1 to 3 pairs of longitudinal nerve cords will be there, and these nerve cords will arise from the brain, which is present in the head. And these longitudinal nerve cords, they are connected by transverse nerves. So with the appearance of these transverse nerves and longitudinal nerve cords, they look like a ladder. And apart from this nervous system, these organisms, they are also having sense organs, and these sense organs very simple, and common sense organ that appears in these organisms are chemoreceptors and tangoreceptors. And these chemo and tangoreceptors are present in the forms of ciliated pits and ciliated grooves. So the cilia are attached to these receptors. So with the movement of cilia, with the help of cilia, these chemoreceptors and tangoreceptors, they will perceive chemical sensations and touch sensations. Coming to reproductive system, these organisms are generally hermaphrodite or monoecious. That means both male and female reproductive systems are present in a single animal. And their reproductive system is highly evolved or complex in most of the forms. Asexual reproduction occurs by fission in many freshwater turbellarians. And in the majority of organisms, the form eggs are divide of yolk. So they are producing separately what this eggs yolk will be produced separately in the yolk glands or vitelline glands. And fertilization is internal fertilization, and even though they are hermaphrodite, cross-fertilization is common in these organisms due to protandry or protogyny conditions. That means both the reproductive systems do not thrive at the same time in the single animal. But in the tapeworms, self-fertilization is found. Even though it is called as self-fertilization, practically we can consider it also as a cross-fertilization. Why? Because in tapeworms, we know that they are segmented animals. So the eggs produced in one segment will receive the sperms from another segment. So eggs and sperms of the same segment will not fertilize. So in that way, we can consider tapeworms are also practicing cross-fertilization. And asexual reproduction, as we have already discussed, is by transverse binary fission, as in some flatworms like planaria. And some tapeworms propagate by endogenous or exogenous budding method also. Development, spiral cleavage occurs in the development process. So spiral cleavages is a very special thing about these organisms' development. And life cycle is completed. It is complicated in most flatworms with one or more larval stages. So some flatworms they are having many larval forms, and these larval forms are very complicated. One larva gives rise to another larva, and another larva gives rise to further another larva. So in this way, their life cycles are complicated. They are not uniform in all the organisms. The life cycle is involves one or more hosts also. And parthenogenesis or polyembryony is also common in trematodes and tapeworms, especially in these uh, parasitic forms. And in liver fluke, the larval forms present in liver fluke are Miracidium, Sporocyst, Rhadia, Cercaria, and Metacercaria. And in tapeworms, we can find Oncosphere, Hexaconth, and Cysticercus larvae in the development process. So regeneration is also seen in some flatworms like planaria. So if we cut the planaria into many pieces, each piece which is having a head part will be developed into a separate planaria. So that type of regenerative capacity is present in planarians and some free-living platyhelminthes. So regeneration is also well marked in some of the platyhelminthes organisms. And coming to unique features, special features of these platyhelminthes organisms, having parenchyma is very peculiar feature. This parenchyma filling the space between the body wall and gut wall, and parenchyma is acting like a hydroskeleton, and it is giving some support to the body, and it is also helping in circulation of materials or transportation of materials also. And flame cells are a very peculiar feature limited to platyhelminthes organisms. So these are the special excretory cells developed for the first time in the animal kingdom. So this is another unique feature of these platyhelminthes animals. And ladder-like nervous system also. This is also one peculiar feature. And self-fertilization occurs in some flatworms. We cannot consider completely this as a self-fertilization. This thing we have already discussed about. And advancement over ctenophores. Ctenophora is a minor phylum. We have seen in the last class about this Cnidaria or Coelenterata. Ctenophorans are also having most characters, most features. They are similar to Coelenterates. So this is a minor phyla. So advancement over ctenophores. Ctenophores also, they are diploblastic like coelenterates, whereas these platyhelminthes organisms are triploblastic. And in ctenophores, they are having a tissue level of organization only. But whereas these platyhelminthes are having organ system level of organization. And gonoducts and copulatory organs present in these platyhelminthes organisms, these gonoducts and populatory organs are lacking in Platyhelminthes, in Ctenophora. So these are the advanced features over Ctenophores that can be seen in Platyhelminthes organisms. So these are the general characters of Platyhelminthes, and that's it. In next class, we will meet with another topic. Till then, bye. Thank you.